let's go ahead and welcome everybody in. So, we've been running these series of events called It Takes a Village over the past couple of months. And we've done things from sensory processing to town hall, but it's something that we want to keep doing every couple of weeks. And we rotate it between Saturdays and Sundays to accommodate different populations. But on the heels of our event in KS Day last week, the demand for Julie was reverberating through the community. And so we decided that we wanted to have a follow-up conversation because Julie, you're doing it right now. You're so incredibly engaging. You have an incredible wit. You're in college. You provide so much hope for the community and what's possible, right? And not to toot your horn too much, but you really are an inspiration, right? And I think it's something that our community loves to see. And so we wanted to bring you back, and you were gracious enough to take the time out of your busy college schedule to join us. I mean, before everybody else hopped on, you were just talking about how you attended the homecoming game at college yesterday. And while the football team didn't quite perform as well as you might have liked, you did have a blast. And I think that's I think it's just incredibly awesome. So first of all, thank you for joining us last week and sharing your story. And thank you again for today. And I know that we have a number of questions that have come in from myself, from other members of the community that we'd love to ask. And to everybody that's attending today, feel free to add extra questions in the chat and we'll get to as many as possible. But first and foremost, I just want to back up and give a little bit of context. We held our international conference back in February, and that was kind of our big, event as an organization with iDefine to really kind of bring the latest and greatest updates to the community about what's going on with our organization and what's going on scientifically and as far as research. And shortly thereafter, Julie reached out to me and she was like, "Hi, I'm 21 years old and I have Kleefstra Syndrome and I'm writing a paper." And I was like, hold on, like total reset. It was just amazing to come in contact. And you were like, "I'm really interested in Dr. Shank and Dr. Casseri's presentations for a paper that I'm doing." So I'd love to understand, what inspired you to write this paper? And if folks haven't seen it, maybe it would be helpful if I put a link to it in the chat. But you wrote a paper on Kleefstra Syndrome. What was the inspiration behind doing that for your college class?
Well, it was that I needed to do a neuro autobiography about my life. And I was thinking, I'll do it on like ADHD. No, I'll do it on my social communication disorder. No, but I was like, okay, I have a genetic disorder, and that class talked about genetics, the first part of this course. So I said to myself, I might want to do it on my genetic disorder. And in there, I intertwined my apraxia of speech, and I also intertwined that I have ADHD. And I also explained about regression.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal paper. I just put a link to it in the chat. Julie, you cover a lot of ground there, right? You talk about some of the challenges that you've experienced, and also I think we've also been able to hear some of the victories that you've achieved in overcoming the challenges, right? And that's why for that particular event that we just did is, we understand some of the challenges that you face and that our kids face and that our community faces, but we also really are adamant about celebrating the victories that we achieve and what the potential is. Let's not just resign ourselves to this particular state. It's no, through some hard work, through some therapies, we can achieve greatness. We really can. And so I'm curious, when you delivered your presentation, how did your classmates respond?
Well, I had a hard time figuring out how they responded since it was on Zoom, And a lot of people, unfortunately, had their cameras off. So, well, as like an ability to tell like how they were reacting was kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem with the virtual world, right? Is you don't necessarily get that same energy that you get with the in-person. And it was funny, you just kind of organically mentioned it with Mark before, and Christopher, that you want to meet them, so
Yeah.
I think one of our responsibilities, hopefully when COVID starts to subside a little bit more, but looking at 2022 and saying, where can we have a virtual meetup? And one of the ideas actually that's come forth is to do it in San Antonio. I guess there's there's an amusement park there called Morgan's Wonderland, and it's all for the special needs community, where folks can come in and there's like adaptive rides, and games, and it's like, that sounds pretty cool, right? For us to all kind of convene in San Antonio. I've never been to Texas, so let's go on a road trip.
Yeah. Another option would be like Boston, because Boston or like near where I go to school, because then like I could show them around like a college campus.
Yeah, you could be the tour. You could be our tour guide.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, I think everybody understands you're in college now, right? But I think something that one of the questions that came forward, and you actually mentioned it briefly in the Rise Above of it, was that you went to boarding school prior to college. So can you share a little bit more about that experience?
Well, I liked how it gave me experience with like living away from my parents. I liked how it was a bit closer, and then I could go home on weekends if I wanted to. However, my parents would have had to pick me up because there wasn't an easy train that I could easily take. And I liked it as like an independent living standpoint, but there was quite a bit of drama, but I was able to handle it. And well, I was thankful that there was staff in my dorm building, because I had one bad experience with this one nasty person who who I had to be roommates with, and she called me the R word and stuff. So I had to talk to the dorm staff, and then I was able to switch dorm rooms, which was a better ending.
Yeah. No, you know what? It's unfortunate, right? That throughout life that we're going to meet people who, for whatever reason, don't have the compassion, the understanding that we would hope for, right? We love to say stronger together, right? That's how progress happens, right? It doesn't help to tear somebody else down. Our mission is to lift each other up, right? But even in telling that story, I love your approach. I mean, you're so centered, you're so calm, you're so mature, that you encountered such a challenge and you handled it better than 99% of the people out there. You went through the proper protocols and channels and sought out a resolution, right? And it didn't impact you. Like, I love your confidence, and I love how you can continuously reinforce this desire of independence, right? That you love college for the independence. You love going to boarding school because of the independence. But I think also you have like this beautiful built-in support network if you need it, right?
Yeah.
As far as the boarding school, and I think we touched on this a little bit previously, but what kind of like specific support and interventions did you have?
Well, in my boarding school, like that I went to the year before I went to college, well, I was in a lot of reading and writing classes to help me to read and write better, as that's part of my disability.
Hmm.
And I was able to read at a higher grade level. So then when I got to college and was in English, like 101 and 102, I was able to like understand better what the textbooks were talking about.
Yeah. No, and so you were basically being able to to keep up, is what you're alluding to, right? You didn't feel like you were falling behind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you also had talked about, kind of, me and you were discussing earlier about how that early intervention really sets you on this kind of pathway towards success, that you felt like, early intervention is specifically around speech from when you were like 2 to 4, that you
Yeah.
felt like that was super impactful for your development.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
Especially because with my brain, like being like a highway system, and like my speech roads were like a lot of the side roads that would get lost, meaning the speech therapy like helped it like decrease the amount of like side roads and make it into like more like Route 1 type of roads.
Yeah, the interconnectedness, right? You were able
Yeah.
to not kind of get diverted. It was more of a streamlined process for you.
And no, it never has been as good as like I-95.
What
because
is?
because I still have some problems speaking at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you speak very, very. You're very articulate, right? And I think
Yeah.
it's what you had said at Rise Above, which I thought was really, really great advice. Is someone would ask you, what advice were you willing to give to other patients and kids with KS? And you actually said that your advice would be more directed to the parents, and have patience and give time, because your child or loved one might understand more than they're able to communicate. And so their receptive language is very, very high, but sometimes they have difficulty translating it into actual words.
Like we can use Mark's son Christopher as the perfect example, because he might be able to understand a lot of stuff that his parents are saying, but he's not able to like verbalize it.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't this what you like are hoping to do after college?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine, if when Ella, when we first were starting to go meet with people, if we walked into a room and met you, I mean, what a comforting feeling that would have been. What just a like, it's a scary experience for parents that I'm sure you understand, and I think you being able to kind of be that light, so to speak, in those times, like it would be really, really encouraging. I mean, I think that, listen, I think sky's the limit for you, Julie. I think you're going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And you also had talked about this tornado experience, and I know you elaborated on previously, but I think it ties into what we're saying, is that sometimes you mentioned outside external stressors that are the catalyst for it, but also I imagine that not being able to verbalize what you're feeling can be stressful, which causes you to go into this kind of behavioral outburst, let's call it. Can you describe the tornado for those folks that haven't heard you talk about it before?
Well, I tornado like when I get like very frustrated and or like stressed out, and like in it I get very loud and I like stomp around, and sometimes I even like punch the air, really even stick my tongue out at people. But I mostly do it with like people who understand me, like my mom and dad. And like to calm myself down, I normally go to my room and I listen to my music and do like play on my iPad.
What's it's interesting, because I think for a lot of parents, when our child goes through these bouts and in these circumstances, is we need to peel back the layers, right? The action is the action, but you peel back the layers and try to understand what's causing that action, right? Like, what is the frustration point that's leading you to that, is very important to recognize. Sometimes it's communication. Sometimes it's something medically going on where you're hurting and you can't express it. But also on the back end, I think you referenced, how you're able to pull yourself back out of that. And for you, it's music. Music calms you down. What particular music do you listen to?
Well, glad you said that, because I was about to touch on the point that I like to act in musicals. So I download the musical soundtrack that I'm in, so then I can listen to the songs and sing along, because acting makes me feel happy.
Yeah. No, it's a great release. People were wondering what makes you and when are you the happiest? And it sounds like hearing about your involvement with a cappella group, which we
Yeah,
definitely need to touch on. What's your a cappella group called again?
it's called Not Your Forte,
Not Your
and
Forte.
and we were virtual all last year because of COVID. So last spring we did events, like we did a Disney Kahoot night, we did a karaoke night, we did a lip sync battle, and now we're able to be back in person singing, but we of course have to wear masks
Mhm.
while we're singing. But still, the fact that we're able to sing in person again somehow, it makes me feel happy
Yeah, there's
about
something
the
very
long
therapeutic
way
about that.
this country has come from a pandemic perspective.
Yeah. No, I think you hear that across the board with musicians and singers, is that this is their outlet. This is their release. Like it's where you find your happiness.
Yeah. And another thing that makes me happy is when I can interact with the people in the Best Buddies club that I'm part of at my school. And we went to virtual in March of 2020 when this whole like COVID stuff happened. We were virtual throughout the 2020 to 2021 school year. And now in the fall of 2021 semester, we are still virtual, but the president and the rest of the leadership committee, what we call the E-board, which I'm part of, is thinking of getting all the buddies together like once a month outside, but off campus, to do something nice in person.
Yeah. What kind of do you do something typical like Christopher was just talking about, where you get together and go bowling, or what kind of activities do you typically do?
Well, we're virtual this semester, so we of course can't go bowling, but what we have every Monday night is like we have like game nights where we play bingo and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned karaoke, and a lot of people were wondering what your favorite songs were last time.
Well, I like well, from Godspell, some of my favorite songs are "Beautiful City,"
Hmm.
which ties into all the positive things about KS and all that stuff. And I also like Day by Day because it tells you like not to get stressed out and take it like one day at a time.
Yeah, I love the uplifting messaging, right? Um, so if another thing that I learned about you was that you actually volunteer at a local rehab hospital. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what that experience is like?
Well, it's actually like a nursing home. Like on one part of it, it's like it has like long-term skilled nursing facilities. And another part, it has like short-term rehab. Like after you get like a hip replacement, you might go there for like a month or so to get physical therapy. I volunteered there this past summer. Like I could only do like about 1 or 2 months before they had a COVID case. Then they had
Mhm.
to close down, and I wasn't able to go back there because they opened like right before I went back to school. But what I did there was like I helped transport people to and from physical therapy, and I liked how I was able to easily interact with the residents there.
Yeah, I think it's just so impressive that you are so giving of yourself to give, giving back, right? To make an impact in others' lives. I mean, I can only imagine, some of those facilities that, maybe their families don't live in town or they haven't been able to have that interaction. And the fact that you, as a young lady in college, are giving away your probably incredibly busy social schedule to go and spend time with them is really remarkable.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to ask you, you just recently went to Boston. How was your experience in Boston?
It was very good and interesting. Well, and I met Dr. Sid and an intern named Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
They were both great, and everyone there was very nice. And Dr. Sid talked to me for about 30 minutes, and then I had a few hours worth of tests, like they were like the tests that I took several years ago when I had a full neuropsych evaluation. And Zoe, the intern, was very nice, and she even put together a small PowerPoint presentation that talked about what exactly my genetic mutation is.
Wow. Did that help you further understand it?
Yeah.
And Dr. Sid is Shrivastava. Dr. Sid Shrivastava is he's pretty awesome, isn't he?
Yeah, I just call him Dr. Sid. I said to myself, I'm not going to worry about his last name.
I think he's used to that. He doesn't mind going by Dr. Sid, does he? But he's very kind, isn't he?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. You mentioned that you had done an evaluation a couple years ago, and so now they're doing a similar evaluation so they can understand progression
And regression.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've experienced any symptoms of regression?
No.
No, it doesn't appear so from the outside looking in, but I think it's really important that you're participating in that, right? Because we want to help those that are going through regression.
Yes, we will.
We will. I love the conviction that we will. So I was curious as whether you keep a journal or not, because I could envision you writing a book one day, and I think someone might have even have recommended that at Rise Above. Do you keep a journal, or do you do a diary?
No, because I'm not considering writing a journal or writing a book because writing is pretty hard for me.
Okay.
And I just know how hard it would be. It would be because writing is part of my disability, which makes it hard.
Yeah, I understand that. So you feel, if I remember correctly, you are strong in math. You enjoy math.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are like a math engineer, puzzle. You mentioned that your football team played MIT yesterday, so I imagine that some of those folks and you would get along really well.
Yeah.
I have a couple other questions, questions just to more of like get to know Julie. People are wanting to understand, like, to the point of what makes you happy. Do you have any heroes or mentors that you look up to?
Well, my former swim teacher named Aileen Tisser, I would consider one of my mentors / heroes because, believe it or not, I swam with her when I was 2, and she runs an organization along with her coworker, Cindy Friedman, and they run this program called Swim Angelfish, which teaches people with special needs how to be safe in the water and how to swim. And I even had a chance to volunteer with her at one of her camps.
Wow. Were you helping as an instructor?
As an instructor's assistant, yes.
Yeah. Well, you'll get there. I mean, it sounds like that's your career path, is to jump in and help these folks, right? And help people develop like you have. And again, there's something about Kleefstra Syndrome and water. I mean, everybody loves water.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool that, a coach and a mentor who you've known since you were two, is
Yeah.
someone that you look up to. I mean, that's a lifelong friendship and mentorship, it sounds like. Um, Actually, you met her at Rise Above, Brianna Reed. Do you remember meeting Brianna, Derek's daughter?
Yeah.
She was the little girl. She wanted to know what your favorite holiday was.
Well, I love Christmas. I even have like two elf on the shelves.
Do you?
And I even have one that I bring back to school with me, like to help me as like emotional support during finals week. Because finals week in colleges can be very stressful.
I understand that.
And then I've got an aunt who's intellectually disabled too, and who comes to my house frequently. And the elf on the shelf is even there to watch her because she can also have like temper tantrums too.
It's a watchful eye to make sure that everyone's behaving, huh?
Yes.
I think that we deploy that tactic here in my house with my daughter and both of my boys. In fact, my wife last night said, sometimes we're staying up and trying to think of creative ways for the elf on the shelf. And someone actually started a business where you can buy, a whole packet where every single day the elf is doing something different. So it helps you streamline that. Yeah, our elf is called Hot Chocolate. So Hot Chocolate's going to be coming back soon to make sure everybody's behaving in this house.
Yeah.
What do you love about Christmas? I mean, I think it's a
Well,
holiday that everybody
well,
resonates with.
I like singing all the good Christmas songs. I like going to church on Christmas Eve. But of course, in Christmas of 2020, because of COVID, my mom and I watched it virtually through YouTube.
Do you have a favorite Christmas song to sing?
Well, I like Frosty the Snowman. I like Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I like Joy to the World.
Yeah. There's a theme with all of those, it sounds like, and what you hit on earlier. It's you
Yeah,
really
and
like the uplifting. Yeah,
yeah,
uplifting and positive. I mean, it really is. It's just remarkable. And I think it's why your personality resonates with so much of our community, is because you are this kind of beacon of positivity, which is really, really cool. Um, Outside of the independence, is there anything else about the college experience that you really love?
Well, I like being able to hang out with friends more than like last year because of COVID and such. All the and last year, given the fact that we had a lot of like online classes, I was staring at a computer all day,
Right.
which kind of made my eyes a bit tired. But I was able to handle it by taking breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one thing, I also like how I can get off campus with my friends because some of my friends actually have cars.
Awesome. And I think you said you were ready to move off campus and get your own apartment with some friends, aren't you?
Mhm.
And
I'm hoping next year that I can get into like the suites that they have on campus with a few of my friends because I just don't want to be in a single any longer.
right.
Of
Yeah, I
course, I
can
want my
understand that.
bedroom so that I can have my own quiet space, but I do want some social interaction.
Right. Did you let's tell everybody what you did yesterday. Where'd you and your
Well,
friends go?
we went to my school's homecoming game where like there was a game day cookout. There was a 21 plus section, but I didn't get any alcohol because I can't have alcohol because of my medicine, and the alcohol interacts with it in like a not so good way.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the Dean College Bulldogs lost 27-0.
That's okay. They fought on, didn't they? The Bulldogs gave it their best.
Yeah,
Did you guys do anything after the game?
we no, we were tired.
Yeah, I can imagine going to a football game is quite the adventure. I mean, it's a few hours, and if you're going to a cookout ahead of time,
Yeah.
it can be pretty exhaustive. Um, so the only other thing that I have, unless anybody in the audience has any questions, would be, you know, you had talked about parents having patience with their kids and, giving them time. Is there any advice that you would give, directly to folks like Christopher or Brianna or my daughter Ella? Is there anything that you would tell them?
Like, there is no need to be frustrated if you can't get your words out. They will eventually come in one way, shape, or form, whether if it's sign language or whether if it's through a talker or whether if it's you trying to speak it. They will come. Words will come eventually. It will just take them more time.
Mhm. Yeah, just the patience. I mean, we have to emphasize that we've got to be there, and we have to have patience. And everybody develops on their own time, right? And so I think making sure we give people that space to develop and just be kind of trying to meet them where they are is really, really important. And again, I think how you let off with Christopher of translating that, you were almost even helping Mark in that moment, like this is
Yeah.
what he's saying. Like Mark obviously was understanding a lot of what Christopher was saying, but I feel like you immediately had a connection with Christopher about what he was trying to communicate and get out.
Yeah, and of course, I'm no expert in sign language, so I wasn't able to understand much of what he was trying to say. Because some of the signs was like his own signs that he kind of invented.
Yeah. But I think, and again, as you look to next stages in career, like, do you envision yourself in that kind of parent and child interaction and being that intermediary? Like, do you envision working with the parents as much as you are with the child, or how do you envision that relationship developing?
Well, like probably more with the child because I like interacting with kids
Yeah.
and young adults too, who have even severe disabilities than I do.
Yeah. And do you already have some experience working with those children?
Yes, one through Best Buddies, which I'm part of, and also when I'm back at home, I volunteer with this program called Healing Hearts, which which helps people with special needs and stuff, and like it's very interesting because I have a good friend named Will who has severe cerebral palsy, who's in a wheelchair and who is also nonverbal. He has a talker, but most of the times when I see him, he doesn't have his talker with him. But I am able to understand what he's trying to verbalize.
It's a pretty remarkable connection that you're able to um, provide that understanding and be that kind of liaison. I mean, I think that that's so valuable because the communication piece, and you can see it in the chat, is that a lot of these parents, children communicate in their own language and styles. And to be able to interpret that, and we've talked before that my daughter Ella, I feel like, she can verbalize maybe 100 words, but if she was dropped into a new environment with someone that hadn't met Ella before, they might only understand 3 or 4 of those words, right? It's because it's so based upon the environment. And if you have the natural intuition, it's really a gift maybe that you have to be able to be that translator.
Yeah, I think so.
So when do you anticipate graduating and starting your career?
I graduating, meaning walking across the stage, graduation, May of 2023.
May of 2023.
Yeah.
I imagine we're going to need to record that. And you may even have some community members from the Kleefstra community who we're going to want to tune in virtually, if that's possible, to cheer you on.
Yeah, and perhaps like some could even attend in person, like anything, if there's like anyone locally
Hmm.
in the United States.
Yeah. Well, I think that we would probably be the loudest cheering section there was. They may tell us to be quiet, but I think that we would probably it might be like a soccer stadium. I think you would have people hooting and hollering for you as you walked across the stage. Well, Julie, um, do you have any questions for me, or do you have any questions for family members?
No, I don't.
I know that when Dr. Kleefstra, when you had some questions about what some of the research that was being done
Yeah.
and where we stand, and I think Dr. Kleefstra did a great job of answering those, and I think that there's a lot of reason right now to be optimistic, right? With the current efforts going on in Boston that you just went and participated in, with some of the studies that are coming out. We talked about the recent study out of Japan that had basically said the same thing that you closed your paper with. You said that, in your paper, you said that one day there was you hope for a cure for all the challenges that you've experienced with KS. And the paper out of Japan this past week that actually came out, serendipity and as fate would have it, on Kleefstra Syndrome Awareness Day. And it said that they felt like a cure is a real possibility. And I think for all of us, seeing that, reading that, and knowing it's from a reputable organization that has done all this work on Kleefstra Syndrome is really, really encouraging. And so now we have to kind of turn the page for next steps and make sure that we're understanding where we can assist as individuals, as a community. It would be it's going to behoove us all to participate in the different initiatives and stay in tune with these different organizations that are working on KS. So I will wrap it up unless there's any other questions or concerns, because again, Julie, I know you have a busy schedule and you've taken time now, consecutive weekends, for us, but I would also encourage everybody that's live and everybody that's going to be watching this on a recorded version, because there was quite a bit of demand for this being recorded, is that we will have more upcoming It Takes a Village series. And again, this is being brought to you by both iDefine and kleefstrasyndrome.org. So we've collaborated on this effort. And so we've done things for sensory processing. We've done things where it was a town hall where we talk about meeting Zoe Frazier, who Julie had mentioned meeting in Boston. So we're doing all these different events. And one of the most one exciting upcoming one is going to delve into some of the research. So there's a young lady named Britt Mossink who has recently done a thesis. She has her research is based upon how the communication of brain cells in folks with KS compares to neurotypical children or adults, either way. And then her research has also identified potential molecular targets where we could start introducing a possible therapeutic. So Britt worked at Radboud under Dr. Nadif Kasseri, and she's going to be joining us on October 24th, which is a Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And she's going to be talking about her research. So it's going to be maybe a little bit technical, but she's also understanding that she's talking to the community about what we can do and how we can help. So certainly look forward to seeing everybody there. But Julie, again, I can't tell you how awesome it is for me as a parent to talk to you, how inspiring you are, how how gregarious and lively your personality is. I mean, really, like you embody optimism, you embody positivity. I love how you are just tackling challenges head on and doing so wonderful. And so I think you have an entire community cheering you on and supporting you the whole way through. So thank you for joining us. And I look forward to talking with you again. Bye, Julie.
Bye.